Hello, my name is Christy, and I am here to talk to you today about thank you letter writing. I'm going to share a lot of information with you today. The thing I want you to remember about thank you letter writing is to just do it. We're talking about the thank you letter that comes after the interview. So you have hopefully worked with your young professionals team through all the job readiness workshops. You've created a professional resume. You've worked through the job search process, the application process. You've had an interview. You've survived that. And the very last thing that you need to do in that process is send a thank you note. Sending any thank you note in any form will put you ahead of 3/4 of your competition. As you can see on the slide, over 80% of hiring managers say it's important to send a thank you after an interview, but only 1 in 4 job seekers actually do it. So just the act of sending a thank you will put you ahead of most of your competition. There's been some adjustment throughout the years of how that thank you letter should look, but today 94% of hiring managers prefer an email as a thank you. Whether you interview in person, over the phone, or by video, always thank those that have interviewed you. We're going to talk today just about a few tips. The first one being to do that right away. Don't wait. Include everyone that has interviewed you in your thank you. You will send them separate emails, and we'll talk about that soon. And you can use this opportunity to remind those that interviewed you of your qualifications and to clear up any confusion or inconsistencies that happened in the interview. Just a couple of obvious things to avoid. When you send a thank you after an interview, proofread it. Please don't send a thank you with any spellings or errors in grammar. You may knock the interview out of the park and then strike out by sending an error-filled thank you letter. You want the thank you note to be short and to the point, but not too casual. It's still a professional email. And avoid stalking. And what I mean by that is this thank you after the interview should come immediately. You should probably wait about a week to hear back from the employer that you interviewed with. And then wait for them to follow up with you. Don't send emails every day while you're waiting. Just be patient. So the number one thing I would tell you about thank you notes after the interview, one, just do it. And the second is to do it immediately or within 24 hours of your interview. That is especially critical if the hiring manager is making a quick decision, which is very often the case. You want that note to reach the interviewer before they make their decision, obviously. And most of the time that happens the same day or the day following the interview. So take the time to send the thank you note quickly. As I mentioned when we started, it's important to send a thank you to each person that interviews you. So if you are at an in-person interview, ask for a business card for each person that is at the table. If they don't have business cards available for you, please ask them their name and their contact information. Take notes, write it down. If you forget because you're nervous and you get to the end, it's okay to stop and ask for that information. It'll be very hard to send a thank you if you don't have an email address to send it to. If your interview is by video or phone, take the time to ask the person on the other end of the phone for their contact information so that you can follow up with a thank you. Rather than sending one email to each with everyone included in one. Send separate emails to each person. It's more professional. And vary your message a little bit because they're very likely to compare notes. So this slide is going to show us some things to include in that email. It should be brief and to the point. You've already spent time with them. You don't want to waste any more of their time. So you will get a copy of this guide to help you with your interview, but just very quickly, the subject line of your email should include the words "thank you." Then they know what the email is for. You can leave it at "thank you." You could say "thank you for the interview." You could include your name and the job title of the job that you are seeking in that subject line, but the words "thank you" are necessary. Open with a personal greeting, addressing the interviewer directly. Start your email by expressing your appreciation. Thank you so much for interviewing me today. Restate your interest and qualifications. Remind them of why they should choose you for the job. Refer to something specific you discussed in the interview. That will show them that you're paying attention and will also help them remember you. Sometimes interviews happen, multiple interviews in one day, and people start to get mixed up in the interviewer's mind. By referring to something specifically you discussed, you'll help them put a face to this thank you note. And if you botch something in the interview and you get to the car and you wish you could go back and fix something you said, feel free to make that correction in your thank you for the interview email. And I'll give you an example of that in the next slide. Say that you'll provide additional info if they need any more information from you, and then close with a professional sign-off and be sure to include all of your contact information just in case they do not have it in front of them. So here's an example of a thank you for the interview email with each of the points that we discussed in the previous slide. The subject line of the email should say, "Thank you. Dear Mr. or Miss Interviewer, I appreciate the time you took to interview me today about the assistant bean counter position at the Rockstar Agency." The next line, remember, is reminding them of your interest and your skills. The job seems to be an excellent match for my skills and interests. In addition to my enthusiasm, I will bring to the position strong communication skills, assertiveness, and the ability to count beans. The next point is to refer to something specific you discussed in the interview. So you could say something like, "The method of bean counting that you mentioned sounded very fascinating to me, and I look forward to learning more about it." Or in the case of something that's bothering you from the interview, "When I said that I hate working in a cubicle, what I meant was that I really appreciate collaborating with my coworkers and would appreciate a more open office concept." So again, these are just examples, but a brief correction to something that is bothering you is perfectly acceptable in the email. In closing, please feel free to contact me if you need any additional information. I am very interested in working for you and look forward to hearing from you next week. Sincerely, and your name. Now, of course, you shouldn't copy and paste this word for word, but this will give you some idea of how to word your brief and impactful thank you interview email. So just to reiterate some important points, the first one is do it. After you've taken the time and sweated through an interview for a job that you are very interested in, sending that thank you for the interview email will really set you apart from the rest of the candidates. Be timely. If you're going to take the time to send that email, do it right away. Do it immediately after the interview or at least within 24 hours of your interview. Often these decisions are made very quickly. Send a separate email to each interviewer that you spoke to. always take the time to express your appreciation. Remind them of your qualifications. Remember, grammar counts. And then in about a week or two, follow up with your thank you if you have not heard from them, but don't stalk them. If you have specific questions or need more examples about the thank you email after a job interview, there are a ton of great resources online. These are a few of the websites that I used when I was researching this topic. And if you would like to schedule an appointment with any of our Michigan Works service centers in Macomb or St. Clair County, the phone numbers are on the screen. Thank you.